He was a military genius, prepared to risk it all for glory. He saved the French Revolution, but crowned himself an emperor. He was a man of destiny, whose dreams live on to this day. Napoleon Bonaparte was born on the island of Corsica in August 1769. His father, Charles, a minor noble, and his mother, Laetitia, were both Corsican nationalists and hugely ambitious for their large family.
You've got to think of it like a clan living in this remote island, surrounded by banditry, smuggling, crime, freedom from France, vendettas against the next village. This is the world in which the young Napoleon and his extended family, his clan, grows up in.
The young Napoleon was always passionate about politics. He greatly admired the ideals of the Corsican resistance leader, Paoli, a friend of his father. But there was a power struggle between the families, and the Bonapartes had to flee Corsica for France in 1778. Napoleon was enrolled in the Royal Military Academy, dreaming of glory in battle. He was in for a rude awakening.
He's scorned by his classmates, the aristocratic ancien regime of France, the young aristocrats, and they scorn this Corsican peasant who thinks he's an aristocrat, but actually is a provincial, a boorish provincial, a foreigner, an outsider with a chip on his shoulder, and he carries that through life.
This scorn just redoubled his ambition. The young Napoleon pored over military texts and became an expert gunner. But unlike other students, he also devoured the radical political writings of the day.
He was a genuinely cultivated man. And that's a very rare achievement in a French soldier coming out of a military academy full of rich but thick nobles. So he stands out in that respect. I think as a man who is that little bit ahead of his time.
The French Revolution destroyed the old order, with the king and much of the aristocracy led to the guillotine. But the revolution, led by Robespierre, also gave Napoleon an opportunity to be politically involved.
Napoleon and his brother get in with Robespierre's crowd. And in fact, when Robespierre is overthrown, in 1794, Napoleon himself is in jail, awaiting execution. And it's only a last-minute reprieve that gets him off. In 1794, we could have easily had no Napoleon at all.
Napoleon's escape from the guillotine reinforced his sense of destiny. Taking up arms in the cause of the Republic, his mastery of artillery helped to drive the British fleet out of the naval stronghold at Toulon. It was a remarkable victory. Napoleon was rewarded with a promotion to Brigadier General and was hailed a hero in Paris. But he did not neglect his political ambitions. He aligned himself with Paul Barras, who was involved with a society beauty, Rose de Beauharnais, later better known as Josephine.
Suddenly, this young man of destiny falls head over heels in love with this woman, 6 years older than he, who is the mistress of his political protector, Barras, and Napoleon falls for her big time. It's the big love of Napoleon's life.
Josephine was a noblewoman born in the French West Indies. Her husband had been executed during the Revolution. She herself just escaped the guillotine and was released from prison with her 2 children. Josephine and Napoleon became lovers, but his military duties meant he was often absent.
I think she liked men, and she couldn't afford to be really faithful, because she wanted to have a man near her, and she had lovers, and he knew that, and he was very, very jealous and very unhappy. And he wrote a lot of letters about that.
There are many days when you don't write to me. No, my darling, I am not jealous. Come soon. You are coming, aren't you? You are going to be here beside me, in my arms, on my breast, on my lips.
he changes her name at the time. It was no more Rose, she was no more Rose, but she was Josephine, because her second name was Rose Joseph, and he chooses to call her Josephine.
In 1796, Napoleon married Josephine. His wedding present to her was a gold medallion inscribed, "To Destiny." 2 days later, he left for war in Italy.
His next big appointment is when he's made a general at a very young age. He's only in his late 20s. This is suddenly where his career accelerates, where he stepped out of the shadows and he's given the command of the army of Italy.
Napoleon entered Italy with only 38,000 men and faced 63,000 Austrians and their allies, the Piedmontese. He crushed their troops with lightning attacks and drove the Austrians out of Italy.
It's in northern Italy in 1796 that the core of Napoleon's reputation is established. He drives the Austrians completely out of the northern plains of Italy and establishes himself there almost as a mini-emperor. He sets up his court in Milan. He signs a treaty illegally. He hasn't got the government's authority back in Paris with the Austrians, and he sets up on his own account the Cisalpine Republic.
If you stop and think about it, it's absolutely remarkable. I mean, nowadays, it would be as if Stormin Norman had conquered Kuwait and decided to keep it from himself and not hand it back to anybody. That is effectively what Napoleon did. And that is really the marker now that's laid down for the rest of his career.
The French government was now determined to control this ambitious general.
Now, the French for a long time have had a scheme to embarrass the British and then move into Egypt. And so here's the ideal moment to get this potentially difficult general, this source of another revolution, a coup, out of the country. So Napoleon is sent to Egypt. He's very happy to go there with instructions effectively to bring back loot.
Napoleon hoped to disrupt British trade routes to India with the Egyptian campaign. He had an overwhelming victory at the Battle of the Pyramids.
He shows himself again to be a very good military commander. He just takes on what was then the Turkish army in Egypt, the Mamelukes, a largely cavalry formation. He just takes them out in a spectacular battle of the Pyramids.
As ever, Napoleon was as keen on ruling as he was on winning. He settled down to make peace with the local leaders.
Napoleon is a very adept administrator, and he's trying to work with the local administration, which is Islamic, Muslim, contemporary resonances there. And one of the proposals that's made to him, if the army will convert to Islam, then he can rule Egypt, say the local Mamelukes. Napoleon works out that this means circumcising all his soldiers and banning wine. And this is not a popular move with the 40,000 or so French soldiers there, so he declines.